Welcome to this tutorial for Cisco Cybervision. Let's have a look at the application programming interface, and how you can use it for integration tasks. Let's go step by step. The API of the Cybervision Center provides you programmatic access to read and integrate data on demand, and it also allows you to apply changes to your center. This gives you the capability to communicate with your center bidirectionally. All communication via the API is based on REST requests sent to the center. Based on the function you call in combination with the type of REST request, you can leverage different functionalities. The privilege to request data and to send control to the center is managed via role-based access control. The Cybervision Center provides you with an online documentation for the API. This includes the possibility to evaluate each function and its parametrization easily online. First, let's have a look at the API in the center itself. After logging into your center, click on Admin in the main menu, then on the API menu entry, followed by Token in the context menu. Tokens will provide the possibility to authenticate external access to the API. Click on the button on the top of the page to create your first token. When creating a token, you must provide a name for it. Please choose a name that will help you to easily identify the token later, especially if you plan to create and provide multiple tokens at the same time. If you plan to immediately use the token, make sure that its status is set to enabled. You also have the option to specify an expiration for each token. If you set it, the token will automatically be invalidated at this point in time. That's it. You created your first API token. All your tokens that are created in this center will be shown on this page. You can see their names, as well as creation and expiration timestamps. And you can manage their lifecycle too. From here, you can also display the token itself by clicking on Show, or copy it for later use. For the next step, click on the copy symbol. With the token being copied, click on the documentation menu item. You will be displayed with the full list of all available API functions. Each function shows using which type of REST call it needs to be used with, its URL and a short description of what it does. On the upper right-hand side, please click on the Authorize button, and use the token you have copied for all subsequent API calls from your browser during your session. If the authorization using your token was successful, the lock symbol will be displayed in a closed state. Pick any of the API functions and click on it. For this example, we are going to use the Activities API function to request the details for one specific activity from the center. Once you expanded the function panel, you can see a Try It Out link on the upper right-hand side. You can find the same link for every API function listed. This specific API function requires you to provide an ID for the activity you would like to have a look at. Provide its ID into the mandatory parameter field and click on Execute. The API function will return a set of information. First, there is an example on how to run the same API call entirely on the command line just using curl. Second, there is the full result of the API call and the parametrization you provided. Using the API functions in this way provides you the possibility to evaluate if the function returns the information you are looking for, and also an example of the returned data structure. You can of course use the API in a programmatic approach. Let's have a look at a very simplistic implementation for the same API call we just did using the browser. Using Visual Studio Code and Python, we can make use of some standard libraries to send and receive REST requests. In the second section, please provide your center's IP address and the API token you created. Unless you configured your center with a non-self-signed certificate, you need to instruct the SSL library to accept self-signed certificates, as it can be seen in the third section. The last section constructs the API request. Please provide an activity ID as the URL parameter. You could reuse the one used before in the center. Please note that the API, as well as the center user interface, provide you access to the IDs too. The subsequent code assembles the URL, and initiates the request and receives the JSON structured data. Below this section you can see the response received from the center. Please keep in mind that this simplistic example lacks exception handling and proper logging functionality. This approach allows you to call any of the API functions seen on the documentation page of the center. Remember that different functions require different parametrization, just as documented in the center. If you are interested in leveraging the API, please note that there is a publicly available GitHub repository from Cisco providing further examples. Thank you for watching this tutorial about using the API of the Cyber Vision Center.